Good morning, and welcome to Satya Live. I'm Reverend Dr. Ali Benjamin, and it is my great honor and pleasure to be here today. Every Sunday, we come on and share our message of life is good. And here at the Satya Center, we are all about inspiring minds, healing hearts, and transforming lives. And so I'm so glad that you're here with me today, whether you're watching and joining in live on social media, or whether you're watching this as a replay. I'd like to welcome you and say that allow this to be a little bit of a spiritual tune-up, a tune-in, and thanks for being here today. So why don't we start with a little meditation? If you will, let's close the eyes and relax the body. And let's take in a deep breath and allow that breath to move in and down. And exhale as you feel that natural urge to exhale, and inhale and exhale. And as you bring all of your awareness into this moment, let's close the door to the past and close the door to the future for now. And bring your attention here, right where you are. There's nowhere else to be and nothing else to do other than simply accept the invitation that life is always presenting to simply be here, be present, be available, be open and receptive. And so as you breathe and relax and center yourself and ground yourself and give yourself a little gratitude for accepting this invitation to be here today. And open the eyes when you're ready. Wonderful. So today I am talking about growing through grief. And grief is something that we all experience throughout our life. And we all experience little losses and big major losses, changes in our lives, and all of those things, all of those losses and the traumas from the past and the little traumas that happen throughout our life can really impact us and give us this opportunity to feel grief. And opportunity isn't, that might sound like it's a positive thing, and grief and opportunity or grief and positivity don't necessarily seem like they fit together. But what I want to share today, because my theme for this month of January 2024 is joy. And for me, because I'm always looking at the contrasts, the opposites, the yin and the yang, I know that joy comes, grief comes with joy, and joy comes with grief. We can't separate the two. And really, grief is evidence of love, that we've loved, that we've enjoyed something or someone. And when that something or that someone is no longer here, no longer present in our lives, then we feel a gap or a loss, a grief. And for those of us that have lost loved ones, we can be in bereavement, deep grief that comes when we've lost someone really special to us. But growing through grief is something that we can do no matter what. It may take some time, because I know, as many of us have experienced grief, we know that there are many stages or phases or states of grief that we experience when we've had a loss, especially when we've lost someone dear to us. We can profoundly feel these stages of grief: denial, anger, depression, bargaining, acceptance. And then the final stage of grief, which the grief expert and counselor David Kessler talks about in one of his books, and that is finding meaning. And that's what I want to share today. It's how to find meaning after some time with processing thoughts and feelings in these stages and states of grief. How can we come to a place where we can feel a bit more confident moving forward and having our life come more alive? Because when we're in those stages of grief, when we're in those first stages of denial, I can't believe this has happened. And for me, I think just before that denial, and I'm reflecting back on losing my son Adam. I'm reflecting back to the time when my youngest son, Chris, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. You know, these kinds of big losses that so many of us, especially as we age, we experience more and more of these big losses. Someone becomes ill, someone makes their transition, and we are thrown into this new, deep experience of grief. And for me, what came before the denial was shock. This otherworldly feeling, experience of everything has changed. I don't know how to move forward. I don't even know who I am. I don't know this new story that is unfolding in my life, and I don't know how to be. And there's a sense of shock with how to make that adjustment back into your everyday life. It becomes so painful, but yet unavoidable, that this feeling of shock, this experience of shock, can overwhelm us, and it affects everything we do. It affects our relationships, it affects our energy, our health, and everything. So when we're in that first experience of shock, we need help. We need to talk to someone. We need to, maybe if we can't even talk, we just need to find people that can be with us. And then there's that denial stage where we can't quite believe what's happened. And by the way, these stages don't always happen in a linear fashion like this. They can be jumbled up and all over the place. But I'm sharing them from the teachings of David Kessler and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who really brought these 5 stages of loss to those that were nearing the end of their life, to be a counselor and to help them. And so I'm leaning on this wisdom. And so there's this denial stage that for me was preceded by shock. And then there's that denial stage. You can't believe it's happening. And this doesn't have to be with the loss of a loved one. It could be a loss of a job. It could be the diagnosis. It could be a bankruptcy. It could be moving to a new house, a new country. There are a lot of losses that we experience throughout our lives. And so, bring to mind some of these experiences that you've had and see if these stages of grief can't bring you a sense of clarity, because that's what this has done for me. It's brought me an exquisite sense of clarity, meaning, and purpose. And so let's get back to these stages of grief. And so we've got denial, we've got anger, We can be extremely angry. I know for me, I wasn't angry when my children, when Adam left and when Chris became ill. I didn't access anger at all. I think for some of us, anger is so deeply suppressed, probably based on our childhood, our upbringing. We haven't ever been able to give ourselves access to anger. So for some of us, we may not experience anger. It may show up in a different form. And if you're struggling with any of this and you'd like support, just give me a call or email me, text me, and I'd love to be able to support you right where you are with any of this. And we've got practitioners, other people too, that can support you with your journey through grief and your growth through grief. And so we can get to this place of anger, or we may get to a deep state of depression. That's where I hung out. I hung out there for years. Adam's been gone now 5.5 years. And I feel like this last year, about the time he left, last July, shortly after that is when I started coming out of the deep depression that I had been in. That doesn't mean I wasn't functioning. I was, but many of us can go into that trauma response and end up being really busy or doing, and so it may not appear to others that we are experiencing grief or depression or sadness. We may be addicted to staying busy. We may be, doing all manner of things to avoid showing that we're grieving. And this may be subconscious. We may not even know that we're doing this, but we may keep people at a distance by being overly busy, by being addicted to certain behaviors or substances that keep us out of touch with our depression or sadness. And again, if you're experiencing this, get some help. Find a grief counselor that can support you. There are wonderful books, like I've mentioned. David Kessler is a wonderful teacher. He's got courses online. He's got lots of books that can support you moving and growing through grief and finding meaning. And so depression, sadness, waves, ups and downs, there's always a flow to these kinds of emotions and feelings. And then there can be a moment or a chapter of acceptance. It's when we come to that place of going, yeah, this really happened. This happened to me. This happened in our family. But within this acceptance, there's also a glimmer of hope. There's that, and if for those of you that are on a spiritual path, that have done your deep work, that have done some conscious grieving, really been able to find your feelings and give voice to the anxiety, to the sadness, to the depression, to the denial, to the shock. Allow those aspects of you, those parts of you, to speak to you, to have a conversation with them. So what does that look like, having a conversation with these parts of grief? It looks like this. Most of us, if you're watching this, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Most of us have connection with this higher self, this soulful self. And so in a contemplative manner, you might want to bring that soulful self online, so to speak, and ask this part of you that's depressed, what do you need? What are you feeling? What can we do? How can we be together in this? And you may ask the other parts, the angry parts, I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling. And so it's like this soulful part of your personality and this angry part of your personality is welcome, is brought into a conversation that can bring forth some clarity, can bring forth some understanding, can bring forth some light. Because when we shine the light on those dark places, a lot is revealed. And so we can move through these stages. We can welcome these parts of us into this biggest conversation. And so here are some of the things that grief has taught me. And I hope this helps you. I found that grief can be really greedy. It can hijack your mind. It can tell you all kinds of negative stories and thoughts and beliefs. It can hijack your energy. It's greedy. That's what I found. And so I always take time now when I'm feeling that oppressive, dark kind of cloak of grief that can suddenly feel like it's overwhelming me. I just take some time to say, what is this? Is it true? Are these thoughts that I'm thinking about life and this loss and how that reflects on me, any guilt or shame or blame that I may have? Is it true? And I can start to have a look at the validity of the thoughts that I'm thinking, the stories that I've wrapped around grief. And then grief isn't as greedy. Grief doesn't have the power. It's lost its clasp on me. And that heavy shawl or that heavy cloak of grief is then released for the time being, because it could come back. But if you do your work consciously, if you get the support you need, then that grief doesn't have to be so greedy that it consumes you all together. Grief has taught me that it changes. It's not static. It moves and it flows, and it can sometimes be a really dark filter through which I see the world. But sometimes it's light. Sometimes it's even tinged with pink and rosy, as I remember all the positive things, all the wonderful things, all the happy memories that I have about, especially with Adam being gone. I can remember, I can have clearer access to the joy he brought into my life. And so grief changes. Grief has taught me that I am stronger than I could have ever imagined. Grief has given me an opportunity to get really clear on who I'm going to be moving forward. Grief has taught me that Adam, although he made his transition, although his contract was up, so to speak, that his soul, it was time for him to leave. And so he's still here. I see signs. I see evidence. And I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow on my podcast, Growing Edge Live, with a grief expert, Dr. James Mellon. He also lost a daughter in 2018. So we're going to have a really deep and juicy conversation about grief and 5 questions that can really transform your life and bring deeper meaning into your life, especially when you've been challenged with a big significant loss or even the small losses and transitions. So join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Anyway, infomercial over. Grief has something to say. Like I said, invite grief in, have a conversation, listen to it, journal about it, talk to your friends about it, because sometimes it can be difficult to talk to friends. You have to find the right ones. Some people don't have a bandwidth for heavy emotions. Some people aren't comfortable sitting with someone else's pain and suffering. So we have to find those individuals that can hold space, where we can share our thoughts authentically, where we can be vulnerable, and we can have a conversation with someone that isn't going to just gloss over with positivity, that's going to try and change what you're saying or what you're feeling. Someone that can truly listen. And this is something that we develop as we learn about grief. We develop the capacity to be good listeners and hold the space for others that are dealing with those heavier emotions. So grief has something to say. And I think about, Adam, when I'm thinking about what grief has to say and what Adam has to say to me and what your loved ones might want for you as you're grieving their loss, as you may be in bereavement. I think of this question: what does Adam want for me moving forward? Because I know that he wants me to go on living. Your loved ones want you to go on living. They want you to find meaning. They want you to turn on your love light and express it in the world, and find things that bring you joy. Grief wants that for us. Our loved ones want that for us. And grief taught me that you don't get over grief. You move forward with it. It is always going to be there, because our life experiences, our memories, especially those ones that hurt, those ones that sting, those ones that pinch, they come along with us, not to the degree that they were when they happened, but there's a depth and a richness that pain and loss and suffering can add to our lives. It can clarify for us what's really important. And so I think this is the biggest thing that grief has taught me. Grief has allowed me to see that I can actually grow. And especially over the last 9 months or so, I've really stepped into this greater sense of giving myself permission, being more willing and allowing of myself to find meaning, to continue living on Adam's legacy. I'm not willing to stay stuck, depressed, dim my light because of what happened 5.5 years ago. I have work to do. You have work to do. This is what we get to at some point in our grief journey. We get to a place where we have to find meaning. We don't want to waste our life. And we want to dig deep. And we want to be able to say to life, say to spirit, thank you for this life. Even though that from my limited human perspective, this loss feels overwhelming. Even though I don't fully understand it, because it doesn't seem fair and it doesn't seem right, I know that's just a little part of my personality that feels that way. That ego part of my personality that is struggling and suffering. And I want to honor that. I want to love that part of myself. But I know there's something inside me that knows the truth. There's something inside me. It's this higher expression. It's my essence. And it wants to live. It wants to thrive. It doesn't forget, because it knows that grief comes along. Memories come along. The love that was there in those, from the moment I gave birth to Adam to the moment he departed, that love never ends, because that's what's the only thing that's really here. It's love. And so grief clarifies that love is the only thing that really matters. So I ask you, beyond your denial, beyond your shock, your anger, your depression, what are you going to do with your life, with your energy, with your thinking, with your time? What are you going to be moving forward? How are you going to bring more of yourself, your authentic self, that part of you that's been polished clean? And that's something that grief does. Just like we see in the river rocks, a rock over time, maybe decades, millennia possibly, a rock in a stream or a river will become tumbled, and those rough edges will be rubbed smooth by the passage of time and the energy and the flow of the water and the rocks bumping up against each other, and those rough edges become worn down and smooth. And that's what happens to us over the course of our lifetime, as we allow the experiences of life, the losses, the traumas, the disappointments, all of that rub some of those rough edges off, and then what emerges is you, brilliant and beautiful, showing up as more smooth and polished and ready to step onto the stage of life with more intention, more attention, more love, more compassion, more empathy for those around us. And we get to do this as never before. This message maybe could be the catalyst for you to come out of that shell of grief and start to ask yourself, why am I here? What's my purpose? What am I going to channel through my life and bring forth in the world that's going to touch hearts, that's going to positively impact my family? How am I going to grow through grief and bring a spark of joy as never before? So, my friends, wherever you are on your journey, and if you've had the journey with grief, which you probably have, let's say a little prayer together to bring us into this warm embrace, this healing vibration, as we activate love right here and now. Closing your outer eyes, taking a deep breath, and coming into alignment with the truth. Only love and beauty. And so as we accept this truth, that we are powerful beyond imagination, we bring the love that we experienced from any of the people that we've lost, and we bring it center stage in our life, and we walk together, hand in hand, down the road of life, finding meaning and purpose through all that we are and all that we do. We're in this together. We're in this wonderful, interwoven, beautiful tapestry of life. And as we wrap this tapestry of life around us, we feel the warm embrace of spirit that says, yes, yes, you can. Now's the time. All is well in the world. And as we surrender to the flow of life, let us give thanks for the blessings that came through all of the challenges that we've experienced. And let us challenge ourselves to cherish ourselves every step of the way. So thank you, my friends. We so appreciate you here at Satya. And if you would like to support this ministry, give wings to our mission and vision, to inspire minds, to heal hearts, and to transform lives, you can go to our website, satyalive.org, or you can Venmo or PayPal Satya Center. But more importantly, like us, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Peace and blessings to you. Thanks for loving us and following us. We're in this together, and we couldn't do this without you. So, mwah, love and peace and blessings to you. See you next Sunday, and see you tomorrow for Growing Edge Live.